Hello, and welcome back to Microbit Mondays. Last week was a little simple introduction. We looked at doing a few basic things on the microbit and how to get code onto it. This week we're going to move on and do something a little more advanced. We're going to look at using random numbers to make a few games. You might think random numbers sound boring, but actually you can do lots of really cool and interesting things with them. So let's get started. So here we are back in the code editor. So let's jump straight in and make a new project just like we did last time. And we're going to call this one Dice. Now this might give you a bit of a clue to what we're going to be doing. We're going to be using the microbit to make a kind of electronic dice. So what it's going to do is pick a random number and then show that number on the screen. And then we'll develop that idea to make it do some slightly more interesting things with our random numbers. So to start off, what I'm going to do is in the input section, grab an on button A pressed, just like we did last time. And what I'm going to do in basic is have it show a number. So if I grab this block and drag it in here, you can see on the simulator that when I press button A, it shows a 0, as you would expect, because there's a 0 in there. And obviously we could change that number to whatever we like. But what we want it to do is show a random number. So what I'm going to do is go into this math section here. And you see we've got this block called pick random. So what I'm going to do is drag this and put it in place of that 0. So what it will do now when we press button A is show a random number between 0 and 10. And of course we could change this to be whatever we like. So because we want to make something that's a bit like a normal dice, let's change this to 1 and change this to 6. So now when we press our button A, we should get a random number somewhere between 1 and 6 shown on the screen. So that time was a 1. If I press it again, now we've got a 3. Press it again, 3 again that time a 1 again. Press it again and we get a 6. So before we go ahead and put this on the microbit, let's just do something a little more interesting with it. So to get that kind of feel and vibe of actually shaking a dice to make our random number, we can change this on button A press to something different. In our input section here, we've got this on shake block. This is quite interesting. What it does is use something that's built into the hardware of the microbit that's called an accelerometer. And an accelerometer can detect movement in different directions. And what this on shake does is kind of what it says on the tin. It detects when the microbit has been physically shaken around, and then it will do something when it's been shaken, just like as if we've pressed a button. So what we can do is just drag this block we've made here into the on shake. Now we can delete that on A button A pressed. And now we can see on our simulator, we've got a little shake, which simulates what would happen if we shake the microbit. As we can see, we shake it again, we get different random numbers. So let's go ahead and put this code actually on our microbit. Now just like before, what we need to do is come down here and click download, and that will download a little file to our computer. We then need to just temporarily come out of our web browser, locate where that file is, it's in my downloads folder here, and then drag it over and copy it onto our microbit drive. Just wait for that to copy over. And now if we look at our microbit, we can see the screen is blank. So hopefully if we give this a shake, we should get a random number shown on the screen. There we go. So number 6, shake it again, we've got a number 2. So that works, excellent. So this is probably a good time to look at using the battery pack with the microbit as well. Having it connected up to the computer with the USB cable is good. It allows you to copy the files onto it. It also provides power to the microbit, but we don't have to have it always connected up to the computer. Once that we've dragged the code onto it, it's actually stored there on the microbit. So we could use a battery pack like this to power it, and then we don't need the computer connected at all. So if I just do this now, I'm going to unplug the USB cable from the back of the microbit. And then with this battery pack, which just simply has a couple of AAA batteries in it, I'm going to use this white connector to connect it to the white connector on the back of the microbit. Now this will only go in one way around. So if I click that in, now this should work exactly the same as before. If I shake it, we get a random number. There we go. shake it again, a different random number. And now it's good because it's completely portable. We're not tethered to our computer. We can take this anywhere we want. Now, of course, we're not just limited to mimicking a real dice. We could pick any numbers we want here. If you wanted something that picked numbers between 24 and 247, you could do that. But let's do something a little more interesting with our random numbers. What if instead of having it show numbers, we wanted it to display some different words every time? For example, what if you have a lot of trouble deciding what you want for tea every night? Maybe you want your microbit to pick for you. Well, we can make it do that. So what we're going to do is pick some random numbers, but then we're going to have them numbers show some different words depending on which number is picked. And to do that, first off, we need to make what's called a variable. Now, a variable, you can think of it kind of like a box where we can store some information and come back to it later. So what I'm going to do is go to this variables tab on the right and then make a variable. Now, you can call your variables whatever you like. It's usually a good idea to give them a name that means something to what we're doing. So because we're going to do something that picks what we're going to have for tea tonight, I'm going to call my variable tea choice. And I'm going to click OK. So now we've got our variable tea choice here. And what I'm going to do is drag this set block in to the top here. And then I'm going to take the pick random that I've got here and I'm going to drag it in to this number block here. And I can get rid of this show number now because we don't need that anymore for the time being. So what's going to happen now is every time we shake the microbit, it's going to set this tea choice variable we made. Remember, that's kind of just like a little storage, a little box that we can store a number or something in. Every time we shake it, it's going to set our tea choice variable that we've made to a random number between 1 and 6. And then we can do something with that random number. So to make this a little simpler, what I'm going to do is change this to a random number between 1 and 3. So we've only got 3 choices to make. So what we need to do now is say, well, if the random number equals 1, then I want you to show these particular words on the screen. Or if the random number equals 2, I need you to show some different words. So how do we do that? Well, we do it over here in this logic section. We have one of these if blocks. So let's drag that in. And what this is going to do is say, if something equals something, do this. Or if it equals something else, do something else. We also need to get one of these comparison blocks from the same section, the logic here. We can drag this over. You can see actually it's the same shape, so we know it's going to fit nicely in there. So what we're going to do is drag our tea choice variable into this first little gap here. So we've got if tea choice equals, and at the moment it says 0, then do something. Now remember, tea choice is actually a number because we're setting tea choice to be a number between 1 and 3. So though it looks like words, tea choice actually represents a different number that we're going to pick randomly. So let's say if tea choice equals 1, then let's show some string. And remember, string is the same thing as saying text words. So what do we want our first choice for tea to be tonight? Okay, well, I like pizza, so let's say pizza. Okay, so we could give this a go now. Now nothing happened. That's because it hasn't picked the number 1. We haven't given it anything to do if it picks the numbers 2 or 3. If we shake this enough times, eventually it would pick number 1 and we would get pizza. There we go. Finally we get pizza. So what we need to do is add in something for it to do if you get the numbers 2 and 3. And we can do this by clicking on this little plus icon here. So then we get an else. And what this will do is, at the moment it's saying, if tea choice is equal to 1, show this word pizza, or else do something else. So we could put another bit of text in here and have our second choice be maybe stir fry. So now what's going to happen is, if this random number is 1, we'll get pizza, or if it's anything else, i.e. if it's 2 or 3, we'll get stir fry. So now we should see if we shake the microbit, we'll get something every time. So first time it says pizza. If we shake it again, now we get stir fry. but we want it to do something different for every number that gets picked. So what we need to do is click this again. So now we can see we've got third option. What I'm going to do is move this one up into here, and we need to say, just like we've done at the start here, if t choice equals 2, then show this. Now I don't have to drag this all in again. What I can actually do is right click on this and then click duplicate. And now I've got a little copy of it, and I can just drag this into here. And now I need to remember to change this to 2. So now if t choice equals 1, show pizza. If t choice equals 2, show stir fry. And then else we can put our last bit of string in here, because we know if it's not shown number 1, if it's not shown number 2, it must have shown number 3, because we've only got 3 choices. So we can put our last item for t in here. And I really hope I don't get that one. Let's find out. Phew, stir fry. I like stir fry, so that's good. So we're getting into something a little more like proper coding now, but hopefully you've seen it's not too scary. If you just saw this without having worked through it, maybe it'd be a little confusing, but actually, if you read through it step by step, it hopefully makes some kind of sense. When we shake the micro a bit, we're setting this t choice variable, remember, like a little container that we've made, to a random number between 1 and 3. If that number is 1, then we're going to show something. If it's 2, we'll show something else. Or, if it's something else entirely, and it must be 3, we're going to show something else again. Actually, not that hard. And just like before, we can click download to download our file. There we go. Come out of our web browser, and then drag it onto the microbit to make it upload it to it. And now I can unplug the USB cable again, because I've got my battery pack connected. Shake the microbit to see what I'm having for tea. Stir fry again. Good. Let's give it one more go. Now it says dog food. Well, can't disobey the microbit. I guess I'm going to have to. So we could use the exact same idea to make a really simple game of rock, paper, scissors. What you can see here is I've got pretty much the same code as we did before, and all I've done is change where it would show some words, a string of text, for one of the show LED blocks. And I've changed each one to be a block that represents either a rock, paper, or scissors. So it works in pretty much exactly the same way. When we shake our microbit, we're going to get a different picture. It could be paper, or it could be scissors. Now, of course, if you put this on 2 different microbits, you can play an electronic game of rock, paper, scissors with anyone you like. So here we go, 2 microbits with the same program loaded onto both of them. If I shake them, I get scissors on one, on paper on the other. Scissors beats paper. There we go. So before we finish up this week, let's have a little look at this, which is a slightly more complicated example of our tea picker. What this is going to do, as well as picking what we want to have for tea, we can also pick what we want to have for pudding, depending on if we've got button A or button B pressed. What we've done is made another variable just like we did before, and I've called this one pudding. And what I'm doing when button A is pressed is setting pudding to false. So as well as setting variables to numbers, we could also set variables to be things like words, or in this case something that just says true or false. So when button A is pressed, we're setting pudding to be false, meaning we want to pick what's for tea, and when button B is pressed, we're setting pudding to be true, i.e. we want to pick what's for pudding now. And the code is pretty similar. It picks a random number between 1 and 3 when we shake the micro a bit. If the choice is equal to 1, then it just does one additional check, just with another if statement like we got from here before, just another if block, but it's nestled inside of this if block, and it checks whether our pudding is false. So if pudding is false, it means we want to pick what's for tea, so we show pizza, or else if pudding is true, it must be true. If it's not false, we pick ice cream. Exactly same here, we can have stir fry or apple pie, or we can have dog food or dog food and custard. So hopefully you can see how this stuff might look quite complicated at first, but if we break it down into small little steps, small little chunks, it's actually quite understandable. And now we can see with our code loaded onto our microbit again, if we press button A and give it a shake, we get a tea choice, stir fry. If we press button B and then give it a shake, we should get a pudding choice, which is ice cream. Awesome. So that's it for this week. Hopefully you're starting to get an idea now of some of the really fun stuff you can do with microbits. As usual, I will make all the code for this lesson available. I'll put a link in the description below where you can get that from. But join us next week when we're going to look at how you can make microbits talk to each other. See you then.